Good afternoon, Keith Sebo, FRCMedia. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a little while since we've gotten an update on what's been happening with our state legislative delegation up on Beacon Hill, and I'm going to be getting an update today. We're going to be joined right now by the senator that represents the Fall River District, Senator Michael Rodrigues. Senator, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Keith. Thank you for having me on. We're doing well. Yep, things are well. Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Let me get to, first of all, some things that are affecting you personally. Over the past 2 years, you served as the chair of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, and you've been appointed to that post again. I know in the past year, we've talked about this in the past, about how the budget has been a challenge. What do you hope to accomplish as another term as chair?
Well, certainly last year, everything was going swimmingly well until March 10th, and then all hell broke loose. And then state of emergency and the pandemic was upon us. I am so happy that 2020 is in our rearview mirror, and we have 2021 to look forward to. We are hoping, and I say we, because Massachusetts really climbing out of this pandemic pretty well because of the collaboration, because of the communication, because of the cooperation, the 3 C's amongst the 3 biggies, if I may say, in state government, between the Senate, the House, and the governor. We all get along fine. We certainly have our disagreements, but our disagreements are not about where we want to be. We might have disagreements on the best course of action, the best way to get there. That's all good. That makes for a better finished product. So we are hoping, first and foremost, that this budget cycle that we are just beginning now, that began about 3 weeks ago, that this budget cycle be a little more traditional in the term of timing. That what that means is the governor did file his budget as he is required by the Constitution in January, by the 3rd Wednesday in January. The budget is now off to the House. Our Constitution requires the House of Representatives to start any so-called money bills. So that goes to the House. They would traditionally debate the budget at the end of April. And then it comes over to the Senate, and we debate the budget at the end of May. And that gives us the month of June to rectify the differences between both budgets, and there will be in a conference committee, with our intention to get a budget to the governor's desk by the beginning of next fiscal year, July 1. So that's our goal. And certainly we want to live by that.
Yeah. And I know, we've had conversations a number of times that I've spoken with you about the budget and how there was so much uncertainty for the fiscal 21 budget. And as we know, that wasn't completed until not too long ago for the current fiscal year. From what you see in terms of, looks like the governor's budget includes a revenue increase of about 3.5%. Do you feel that will hold true? And I guess, what are your general thoughts about what the governor has presented to the legislature?
I think the governor, he actually presented a very boring budget, which is good. Very matter of fact. And I think we can certainly hold that 3.5% revenue increase. I think that's going to be good. I think since the governor released his budget, and you talked about uncertainty, we've gotten new information from the federal government. By the way, all good news. There's something called FMAP, which is Federal Medicare Assistance Program. It's a match, the federal match. Traditionally, it's 50%. So for every Medicaid dollar we spend, we'd get a 50% reimbursement from Medicare, from the feds. And by the way, our Medicaid line item is by far the largest line item in the state budget. It's $18 billion, fully over 40% of the state budget. So that match has been increased during the pandemic to 56%. So that little, from 50 to 56%, reimbursement provides Massachusetts with another $500 to $700 million of new revenue to spend and to invest. So the news is getting better. The economy, except for one very important sector of the economy, and that being the hospitality, restaurant, and tourism sector. That's terrible. That's in the tank. And it's been a terrible year. But other than that, the economy is not bad. Building trades, construction, education. No one at BCC, I don't think, has missed a paycheck, during this pandemic, So, with the help of the federal government through their CARES Act money and through the Coronavirus Relief Fund, we have been navigating our way through this pandemic in pretty good shape.
Now, let me ask you, in terms of moving forward, I know the current fiscal 21 budget was put in place with no anticipation that there'd be any more money coming from the federal government. You talked about the Medicaid money that
Right.
may be coming in,
Right.
but in terms of, additional stimulus, is that going to be the mindset going forward for fiscal year 22, that, listen, we're going to need to do this ourselves?
As of now, yes. We do expect, now that the Democrats are in control of the House and Senate, and under President Biden, we do expect some real help from the federal government, some additional money. But we're not going to count our chickens before they hatch. So as of now, we are going to build our budget. We are building our budget upon only what we know, not what we hope for, or not what we anticipate. But until, there's no checks in the mail with us. It is what it is. And, we just got some news over this weekend of the new federal plan, which could potentially provide some significant money for the state. But until it actually happens, we're not going to plan on it. We're going to build our budget without it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Let me just ask you, now that we're in the new order of COVID, if you will, and we've been, it's hard to believe that it's going to be a year that we've all been remote for most of us since the middle of March. Have things, in terms of legislative business, has it been somewhat normal, or as normal as can be? I guess if people adapted to it better. From what I understand, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe may have been on the House side, maybe both chambers, that in terms of the filing of bills, that's been extended a little bit to give legislators more time. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've extended our filing deadline. It actually is this coming Friday. And we anticipate somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 pieces of legislation will be filed for this upcoming session. Last week, both the House and Senate reorganized, if you will, that the Senate president made her appointments for all committee positions and committee chairmanships. And as you mentioned, I was honored to once again be appointed as chair of the Committee on Ways and Means. The House did the same thing. So we are ready to hit the ground running in our committee structure. Every single one of those 5,000 to 7,000 pieces of legislation will get assigned to a committee. We'll have a public hearing so that any citizen of the Commonwealth will have the opportunity to weigh in publicly and on the record of why this proposed bill, this proposal, is a good idea or it's a bad idea, to why it shouldn't pass, or publicly offer suggestions of how to make it better. That we're ready to hit the ground running on that. As far as actual sessions, we are still meeting remotely. We're still in pandemic mode, if you will, and that certainly creates some issues. It's certainly not as easy or as efficient as when all the members are actually in the chamber. The House always had electronic voting opportunities. The Senate rules always dictated that you actually had to be present and actually verbally express your vote, yes or no. Those are your two choices. I always said there's no maybes, and it boils down to a yes or no. We've modified the rules now to allow for voting virtually. So we have special teams, set up, Zoom set up, so members can participate, members can debate, members can offer amendments, and members can vote remotely. It certainly has not come without its share of technological problems and delays, but it's the best we can do, and we're learning as we go along. I personally am in session. I'm in there. I'm at the State House every day. I really have to be, as because of my position as Ways and Means Chair. If I were not Ways and Means Chair, whomever Ways and Means Chair would be, would really have to be there present, have to be physically present in the chamber. So I'm there. There's a presiding officer, the Senate President, or one of her designees, the minority leader, the ranking Republican member, Senator Bruce Tarr from Gloucester. He is generally there, or one of his minority members representing the minority party, and that's it for members. We have a couple clerks, we have a couple counsel, our attorneys, but the chamber that during session would normally have the 40 senators and maybe another 30 support staff in the room, probably have a dozen people in the room. It's surreal.
Yeah. Yeah. Is traffic still good going up to Boston? I know we talked about this last year.
It's a breeze. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh boy. It's so that, the new normal. There's nobody on. I mean, yeah. Yeah. It's a breeze now going into the State House. It's literally shaved an hour off my commute each way. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say, so in some ways you do miss your colleagues in person, but on the other hand, you get in and a lot quicker. The give and take, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Right? Who knows? So, all right. Well, let me just ask you, Senator. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I do miss my colleagues in person because, I'm
a
social animal, and I like to physically socialize and have a conversation and communicate. The legislature is not unlike life in general. It's all about relationships, and it's all about creating relationships with your colleagues, because there are 40 of us. We all come to the chamber with different backgrounds, with different professions, with different levels of skill levels, with different expertise. And it's really learning each and every one of my colleagues' details about them. That makes us a better chamber. But we'll get there. Hopefully by the end of May, we're all vaccinated. And we can, maybe we'll debate the budget in person. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, talk about a great symbolic gesture in terms of, back to normal, doing probably what's one of the most debated bills in the legislature each year. Having that done in person, I think would probably be a good sign for people to see, no doubt about it. Let me ask you, Senator, finally, with the new session starting, and you talked about how there's, 5,000 to 7,000 bills that are going to be introduced by members. What are some of the things that you may have put forth or thinking about putting forth to help the greater Fall River area as you start another term in office?
So I have been very disciplined this session as far as filing bills. I would normally file between 40 and 50 pieces of legislation. But now, with my new role as chair of Ways and Means, I need to be careful, because every one of those bills would flow back through my committee. So I'm only filing a handful of bills, local bills that directly affect Fall River or any of the other 6 communities that I represent. And the only policy substantive matter that I'm filing this session is a refile of my genocide education bill. This was a piece of legislation I worked very closely with one of your colleagues, Professor Ron Weisberger, at the Holocaust Education Center at Bristol Community College. I've worked closely with the Jewish Community Resource Center, with the Anti-Defamation League. As a result of learning through a New York Times report 2 years ago that 60%, think about this, Keith, 60% of all millennials have never heard of Auschwitz, did not know what Auschwitz was.
I want to thank Senator Rodrigues for joining us, and I'm sure we'll catch up with him again very soon. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great rest of your day.